Chapter 54. Aether. Is he? Odiana said, her lip quivering. Yes, Bree said. Zirem killed him. The fairy began to cry. Bree sat back and instinctively pulled out the pendant. All of the jewels were now glowing, including the one that was pulsating light pink for the element of light. She hadn't seen it descend from anywhere, so it must have come from defeating Zirem. It didn't feel like a victory to Bree. A noise from behind her caused her to turn and stand up. The Aether descended from the roof and hovered in front of her. Its form changed from a floating ball to a shimmering cylinder. Two of the strange purple tendrils of energy reached out and connected with the pendant around Bree's neck. She felt a surge of energy as the Aether and the elements passed their power back and forth. There was a flash of light and then a strange, comforting silence. The air in the room seemed to ripple like they were underwater. Bree felt lightheaded and sleepy. The only thing in the room other than herself that remained the same was the Aether. What just happened? She asked, her voice echoing away from her. We are now connected to each other. The voice she heard was her own. Did she think it? No, it came from the Aether. Somehow she knew the Aether was communicating to her. Where are we? She asked. It took a while for the Aether to respond. We are in my realm, beyond Goal. You and I are now one. What does that mean? You restored the elements and restored me. Sorato made sure you were given all the gifts of the Royal Golian Legion, so you alone inherit my power. But, Bree said, but the Aether cut her off. Since you are the last of the bloodline of the Royal Golian Legion, and there is no more royal family, you alone inherit the throne of Gol. And I become queen? Yes. Bree was beyond shocked at this announcement. She turned around to see Odiana frozen in time, hovering over Blaze. What about Blaze? She asked. Your wolf died by Zirem's hands. Bree's heart longed for Blaze to be alive, and she began to cry a little. The Aether sensed this and tried to send her power to calm her sorrow. In doing so, Bree was able to search deep inside the core of the Aether. She suddenly turned. I want Blaze to live. But he is dead, the Aether replied. You can bring him back to life. I do have that potential. Then I will bring him back to life. Bree interrupted. Give me the power to bring Blaze back to life. The Aether's rose gold color darkened and came close to Bree. If you use this power to counteract death, then you shall lose connection from the Aether from now on. There are some powers that should not be tampered with. You have been given a great gift, Bree. Don't lose it for a simple pet. Bree turned and looked at Blaze. He was never a pet, but a friend. She looked back to the Aether. I will sacrifice my connection to the Aethers to save Blaze, and I want the Aether to distribute its power throughout Gol. The people here have suffered greatly from the pirates. The Aether hovered in place for a while as if pondering her request. Once you touch the Aether, it finally said, all the power to save your friend will be given to you, and the rest will transfer across Gol, including the elements. All will return to as it was, before Zirem came. Bree nodded and approached the Aether, holding her hand up to it. As she touched it, she felt a rush of energy explode throughout the room and herself. The shimmer in the room was gone, and time seemed to have started up again. The Aether was not in front of her anymore, and when she turned, Odiana was still floating over Blaze. It took her a few seconds to build the courage to crouch down beside him. Once she did, she placed a hand on his fur and closed her eyes. She could sense Blaze's body, broken by Zirem, and she could see every part of him that was hurt and beyond repair. The Aether's power flowed through her hand and into Blaze, targeting the whole body. He floated off the ground for a moment, shook from the Aether's energy, and then landed back down. Bree opened her eyes and looked around. Slowly, Blaze's chest began to rise and fall from his breathing. He suddenly coughed and rolled over to look at her. What happened? He asked, his voice raspy. Bree and Odiana didn't answer, but hugged him instead. He groaned. Easy! My whole body aches like crazy. They all chuckled at that. How did you do that? Odiana asked. I used the Aether to bring him back. Blaze rolled onto his stomach and looked at her. You have that ability? She shook her head. Not anymore. I gave up my connection to the Aether for you to live. Why? Bree began scratching behind his ear. No one should have that much power. Does that include the gifts that Sorato gave you from the Aether? Odiana asked. Bree nodded. I'm just a normal girl. Who can lift a ton with this bracelet? They all laughed and hugged each other once again.